Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the one, the only Hog Talk podcast, and we are a part of the Believe and Buzz radio networks, where you can hear us on all podcast platforms, as well as Buzz 2 106.7 in Central Arkansas. And so please like, rate, and review our podcast. I'm your host, Porter Hayes. Alongside me is Jacob Davis. And all live shows are presented by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark, Arkansas, as well as Bet Online, the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports with the first-to-market odds and lines. Bet Online continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. So head on over to Bet Online today or use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV50, to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts. And Jacob, I can honestly say that neither one of us had a great weekend. So when it comes to our teams and our performances, I had to dreadfully sit and watch with a Carolina fan and get rubbed in my face that South Carolina beat Clemson for the first time in 7 years, and just had to sit there and take the L and watch our team just get time after time after time again to just go ahead and 2 fumbles in the fourth quarter. But moving on to the Razorback game, kind of similar situation. I mean, you had the lead at halftime, and this is the tale of the season. What the hell is going on with the team? You just come off this masterful win against Ole Miss, and then this. It's just like, this is up and down, roller coaster university. It's the Arkansas roller coasters. I mean, that's just what this season has become, and it's like, when we win, it's great. When we lose, let's point fingers instead of, I think, honestly, there's a lot of finger pointing instead of what's really going on. How do we really fix the issue? But here's transfer portal season, and we're really going to see what's going to go on.
Yeah, we've already seen Miles Slusher announce that he was going to enter the transfer portal. I'm not sure we know where he's going to go, but he's a talented player. The guy could rush the passer. He's good in protection in the secondary. I mean, he was just a meaningful player. Played a lot of good snaps here. Helped Arkansas kind of recover from the Chad Morris and Brett Bielema days. But seeing him leave, it's going to hurt a little bit, just because you're going to lose some depth there at the secondary position, a place that's been kind of suspect all year long, man. But yeah, it really hurt to kind of watch this game unfold. You fight from being down 17-7 in the first half, and then you end up taking the lead 21-20 at halftime, and then things just didn't feel like Arkansas was just motivated. And we've said that every single week, and I hate to feel like I'm beating a dead horse, because if it seems like we are every single week, it's like, oh man, you're up 42-6 last week with a dominant performance over Ole Miss, and then this week you go out there and crap the bed against Missouri. I mean, you try to go first down and goal with a tight end sneak. I mean, you have a freaking 500 pounds of offensive fortitude in Jefferson and Rocket Sanders, and you choose to go with your converted wide receiver turned tight end and Trey Knox. I mean, not that I fault Trey for it, but it's a bonehead move. Are you trying to win the game or what?
Yeah.
There were so many frustrating moments.
Yes, and that's the most frustrating play of the year, because one, he couldn't block a freaking screen door window. You know, I mean, he couldn't, and it's nothing on him. You force him into the tight end spot. You put the weight on him, and we talked about that. Just because you put the weight on him, and he made the
he made the sacrifice.
He made the sacrifice and the adjustment to go to that. But sometimes, I mean, and here's the thing: it's a knock on him. But when you just watch him run in motion from one side to the other, he just looks like he has 2 left feet when it comes to blocking, and it's nothing against him. It's just how you could see how slow he moves from one way to the other, and you can't move that slow and expect to block a defensive end or a linebacker. He's not, and so if he can't even block a guy, you're going to expect him to. I mean, like, and you're like, hey, we're going to catch them off guard by doing this. Like, you don't think that putting him in a position that nobody's ever seen before, that's not going to throw red flags? That would be a thing where you use him as a decoy and do a little end around or run around the edge. It just baffles me. And here's the thing. Everybody wants to point the fingers at Kendall Briles, and rightfully so. But at some point, this is the last regular game of the season, and you're still letting your offensive coordinator call bullcrap plays like this. Sometimes you've got to be able to step in and say, no, we're not doing that. Yeah. There's sometimes, and here's the deal. This is the biggest downfall, the biggest criticism I'll give Coach Pittman is it's like he wants to pass the buck. Yes, he'll take ownership and take the fall, but it's like he doesn't step in until his coordinators know we're not going to do that. We're not going to run that bonehead play. I mean, if you've got seasoned media credentialed people covering this team for 30 years, 20 years, saying that is the most ridiculous play, people who have played for the Arkansas Razorbacks are watching this saying that's the most bonehead play I've ever seen. At some point, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I should have. I mean, that's the thing. That's going to be the biggest thing when he reflects on this, and it should. How many times should I have stepped in as a head coach, burn a timeout, said, no, we're not going to do that. Let's run something else. I mean, it's ridiculous.
And it's at least happened twice this year that we've known about. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he did kind of say that we didn't have the lineup going or the look that we wanted from Missouri to run that play. Then freaking call a timeout.
Exactly.
It's first and goal. You're trying to go 7-5, kind of make this season a little bit better than what it was, and then you're losing to Missouri for the sixth time in 7 years. Like, I don't understand it. I can't comprehend it. Yeah. In my mind, I don't see Missouri as being in the same league as Arkansas, and every single year we're proven wrong.
Yeah, it's about
like I don't get it.
Like I don't get it. Looking at the Facebook groups and stuff, and I seen this Razorback fan. He made a post about Missouri putting a retractable roof over the stadium, and it was a toilet bowl. How can you sit there and say that when they own you?
Yeah,
you can't. There are certain teams you can say that to. You could say that to Vanderbilt or people that Ole Miss after you beat them, but you can't sit there and trash talk Missouri when you sit there and let them bust your tail and bust your ass year in and year out.
Yeah.
You let the guy, the Basil guy, talk his crap, and then they come in and beat you. You've never won in that stadium, and you want to make a joke saying, well, let's put a toilet seat over their stadium. Well, you've never – and somebody even said, well, every time Arkansas plays there, they get flushed, so might as well. I mean, that's where we're at. There's a lot of frustration that you see after a loss, and it's like, when are we going to realize that sometimes, this team is just not the depth is not there.
Yeah.
We have to look at depth, and you don't. I mean, we're not even thinking about the fact that Bumper Pool before the week even started was like, hey, Sam Pittman said this might be what impact did that have on the defense?
Right.
Like, you lose Catalon at the first of the year. You really counted on him to become that glue guy to get this, maybe make something out of this team, be good, be very respectful on defense. And they showed times where they were. And then the week of the last game, Bumper Pool, I mean, there's reports that he had some kind of surgery, but it's like, what blow did that have? We get to this point and we lost our captain. We lost one of our captains, the guy that's, and just all the things that come into this, and you're already 6-6 or whatever, and you're just like, and it's crappy to think that way, but I mean, you never, these are kids, so then you don't know what's going through their heads at times.
No, and I think a lot of it has to. I mean, Arkansas, they go out there and just, blow away Ole Miss. They play against a number 5 team in the country, LSU, the week before, and lose by 3 with a backup quarterback. And you can't get up from Missouri?
Yeah.
You can't get up for them? What the mess, man? I don't get it. You get up for A&M. You get up for everybody else. But every single year in the season finale, you cannot get up for Missouri. I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can say, because I hate losing to those guys. And, I went into this game thinking it's not a rivalry. I'm leaving with it thinking, I'm just pissed off because, I'm ready to beat the freaking crap out of these guys. And I think that's what makes it a rivalry now, is because you're getting tired of getting your teeth kicked in, because Arkansas's got the better talent. I mean, up and down recruiting wise, Arkansas has had the better talent for the whole decade. Probably outside of the 2018 game, Arkansas, I mean, lost 38-0 in that game. Every other year, it's been a one possession ball game.
Yeah.
And Arkansas's got better resources. They've got, I mean, Missouri, they're not even up to par with a stadium that's SEC caliber. It just doesn't. It doesn't look great. It looks like Starkville before they added in that end zone there and finished up their stadium. So it just doesn't make sense to me how Arkansas continually goes to Missouri and loses, and even in Fayetteville or Little Rock and they lose. It's just I'm exhausted by it.
Yeah,
I just don't get how you can get up for those teams but not get up for Missouri. It's ridiculous.
Well, and you look at the Liberty game. I mean, and at the time, we're like, oh, we're worried about the team that look at how they came through with the season. And
yeah, they lost 42-7. They were losing 42-7 at one point to freaking New Mexico State.
Yeah. Megan brought up a thing. I do want to correct something. I don't know if I posted it on Facebook, but Megan said, I thought we scored 27. Well, I was going off the Arkansas Razorback website, and they said 29-24. So I did look at the press box score, and it was 29-27. So wherever we had that posted, I did correct it. But back to the point. You look at the Liberty game and look where we thought after that loss. Okay, they were ranked. We overlooked them, and we were making excuses for the loss. And here we are at the end of the season, and there's just you can't make those excuses anymore because this is the Battle Line Trophy. This is. You break out the bowling ball and everybody's up in arms saying, you're wanting to go bowling and you're trying to better yourself and get a better bowl game. So for them to, I don't know. There's just so many questions of what happened between the Ole Miss game and this game. There's so many questions on why. I mean, I know Missouri's a hard place to play. I know that they're a tough team on defense. You held them to 3 field goals. I mean, they score touchdowns. This thing's a blowout. Yeah. I mean, defense did a decent job and holding them to 3 field goals on the drive. So it's just, I don't know. I think just fresh start. There does need to be some changes, and they did, get rid of their strength and conditioning coach. But I don't know if that's one of the things where it was low men on the totem pole, or I mean. You don't know. I don't think, honestly, to goodness, when you're getting up and down for different games, I don't think that it's your strength and conditioning's coach's fault for this stuff. I don't think that's the issue.
Did you see how bad the offensive line was getting manhandled the last 4 games? Arkansas, the most yards they rushed for was against Ole Miss last week. They ran for 338 or something like that. But in the other 3 games, the most they rushed for was 144 against Liberty. They were getting manhandled on the offensive line.
What do you got? But that's the difference. So where's the depth at on the offensive line?
You've recruited well there.
You've recruited well, but how long? I mean, it takes a long time to develop. You're throwing guys, and that's the thing. I mean, you look at your offensive line. Yeah, you've got a good core, but geez, Louise, I mean, there's no depth there.
Yeah,
that's the thing. Like people want to go point at. There's only so much. By God, you go for 8-9 weeks and push around 350-pound guys or 300-pound defensive linemen for 60 minutes, and then on top of that, practice. And in practice, you're doing. Yeah, that's the difference between Arkansas and the rest of the SEC when it comes to depth. They don't have. You can't bring in a offensive line for a series and give your guys a rest. You can't bring them in on a third down. When you have depth, you have those third down specialists, or you have the run game specialists or pass blockers.
Yeah.
You don't have that. And it took a toll.
Yeah. Devin says 10 carries for Rocket. And that's one thing I didn't realize until after the game. I knew that Rocket didn't touch the ball very much, but 10 carries for your running back that was one of the best in the SEC this year, ran for the 4th most yards in school history in one season. Yeah. And you don't give him but 10 carries? Man, what in the world was Kendall thinking? Like, I've seen there's been times where Rocket's been stuffed, but he ended up running himself out of it.
Well, here again, devil's advocate.
Okay.
KJ Jefferson had 19 carries. In this RPO setting, how much of those reads, how much is that on KJ and how much is that on Kendall?
Right.
I want to go 50-50. I'm not saying all of it's on KJ, but you got to look at KJ's getting 10 more carries, and he's in. You want to talk about KJ? He had 19 carries, 74 yards. Yeah, 2 yards a carry. So, I mean, I'm going off how many yards rushing he had because we're looking
was
at
that
36 yards, but he got sacked 7 times. So, I mean, I'm not counting when I go yards. I'm looking at the gain yards. I'm not looking at the net. He had 74 yards rushing, but it's just the fact that, yes, he is the captain. He is the guy. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done that. But when we're looking at 10 carries, we automatically go to Kendall Briles and KB. But I think it's a 50-50 split because, yes, it's the offensive coordinator's job calling the plays, but KJ's the one making the reads. We got to put you got to put some heat on him when your guy, your bell cow, rushed for 24 carries and had a career rushing. I mean, what was his total last week?
232.
So he got 10 yards less rushing last week than Brady Cook had passing this week.
Wow.
If that just breaks down how good of a performance. Brady Cook had 242 yards passing and 1 touchdown.
Yeah, but he rushed the ball well. Like he was good.
Yeah, he had 150, but that one was he started off with that 37-yard right off the bat. But still, even if you take that away from his gain, he still had 18 carries, so 17 carries for 120. If you take away that one run, and he only had 13 lost yards, so they only got to him two times, sacked him. But I mean, you've got to look at the whole perspective of when we're talking about why this guy isn't doing that, and you got to look at the whole thing of. But the questions: why did this guy get 24 carries last week, and he only gets 10 this week? What happened? But where's the connection? I mean, is the reads different? Was Missouri doing something different to key on Rocket? Hey, let's make KJ beat us. We know they're not going to beat us through the air. Let's key on the running. So I mean, just because he had 47 yards rushing, Rocket Sanders did. But if nobody respects your pass game, that's going to happen. Right. I mean, and like Coach Pittman said, when you're they're bringing more guys than you have to block. How many times has that happened this year?
It's happened a lot.
Yeah, but I mean,
You can talk about defense a little bit. Defensively, Missouri's kind of been. I mean, offensively, Missouri's not been very good. They haven't moved the ball very much on anybody.
Yeah.
But I do want to give a shout out defensively to Chris Paul, who, man, he had a game high 9 tackles, I believe, 1 tackle for a loss. And that was in his first start. So he's in replacing Bumper. That guy, he's got a future. And I know I saw somebody say something earlier in the comments about guys out there just jogging and stuff. That guy goes 100% on every single play. And I think if he stays with it with that mindset, he's going to be one of the next in the line of Brooks Ellis to Grant Morgan, Hayden Henry to Drew Sanders and Bumper. And I think Chris Paul is going to be the next great Arkansas linebacker. That guy has been tremendous. He's finished 5th in the regular season as far as total tackles, and he didn't play near as many snaps as like a Latavius Brenny and several other guys this season too that have been on the field probably 50% more than he has. So that's really cool to see a promising redshirt freshman, something to build around there on defense.
That's somebody you need to make sure when this transfer portal stuff comes down, you don't lose him. I mean, because he needs a lot to your team.
But you never know you hear things, but then you never know what's going on in a kid's head either. So
yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying that's the one. Even though you want to reassure him, you need to keep. I mean, the guy that wants to play for your team and be an Arkansas Razorback to the core.
Yeah,
and that also we're looking at doom and gloom, but we don't know who else is unhappy at their school. We don't know who. Look at what the transfer portal's done for Arkansas. But we are at the end of the season. We don't know what kind of bowl game we're looking at. I don't know when that will be decided or
It'll be next Sunday.
Next Sunday.
Is when bowl announcements will be after the conference
that's right.
conference championships. We'll probably hear about 6 o'clock. We'll probably hear some rumors and stuff during the day, probably about 3 or 4 o'clock. But I think the bowl announcements are going to be on ESPN next Sunday at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
well, and you look around look at LSU get beat by Texas A&M, and
that's wild. I did not see that coming.
It's just a lot of games. I mean, you look at Michigan and Ohio State and teams that were,
yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how everybody's thinking or trying to say that Alabama has a shot to get back in. And it's like, are they really trying to push Alabama to sneak in into the – and they will. Any ounce of inkling that they can get their darling in, they're going to try to, promote that. And I'm like, unless USC loses, TCU loses, and Michigan loses, I don't see how it happens. I just don't. But then again, you've got the committee that's like, well, who's going to give us the best money?
I would rather see Ohio State. I think Ohio State probably shoots down to 5, maybe. They're one loss to. But it
was a bad loss.
It was a bad loss. Yes,
At
and
home.
yeah,
but that was horrible.
That was horrible. That was, yeah.
But you know what it does? When you're riding a streak, nobody looks at the flaws. And this is what I wanted to bring up about this season. It kind of parlays or segues into Arkansas. You never see the flaws when they're winning. But when you lose, you're like, oh, I seen this happen. I seen this hole. I seen this chink in the armor. And I think that's what's happened. I think the Liberty game really showed a lot of chink in the armor. And I don't know if other teams were going for that. But a lot of that had to do with they see what you got Matt Landers, Jaden Hazelwood, and Trey Knox out there, and Keytron Jackson. When the first of the season, like, okay, we got to respect these guys. Well, when you're passing for 213, and they've shown signs of a guy that can really take over, but the grand scheme of, we know that Arkansas is not going to burn us. They're not a dual threat team. They're not a threat to us through the passing game. They can beat us and get lucky, but when you stack the box and you make Arkansas beat you in the passing game, albeit, like Ole Miss, where you just catch fire. It happens, but for the most part, they've not been able to do that. And I think that's the biggest missing component when you come to the success of this team is depth and being able to be a balanced team. You can't just run the ball anymore. You can't just pass the ball anymore. You got to have, look at Ohio State. They were this pass it team, but if you can't defend the run and you can't run the ball in November, it don't get you anywhere.
No. And you're talking about the passing game wise. I believe Matt Landers may have an option to come back next year. He redshirt in 2018 at Georgia, and he has that COVID year at 2020.
Yeah.
So you get one extra year of eligibility. So if Jaden Hazelwood and Matt Landers want to come back, you welcome them guys back with open arms. Those were your two leading receivers, both over 700 yards this season. So that was I would welcome both of those guys with welcome arms, open arms. Man, Matt Landers really came on late when the light really kind of flipped on during that BYU game where he had like 6 receptions for 99 yards. But the guy got most of his yardage and most of his touchdowns in the final 7 games of the season, and he was turning heads there for a little while. So I would like to see him back as our deep threat. Arkansas's got another guy that's coming on an unofficial visit. He's an FCS receiver for over 1,000 yards this season. So we'll be able to – I can't remember his name right now, but it was text to me earlier who it was. But he's an FCS guy, went for 1,000 yards, I think 10 touchdowns. I can't remember what FCS school it was, but that's pretty stout numbers there at the FCS level. So,
and we've seen the FCS. It ain't no joke anymore.
Look that Schrader kid at Missouri was a D3 kid. Played in the same level of competition as SAU, OBU, Henderson, that type of guy. And then he came out, and I don't think he gashed Arkansas but on Friday, but he had a pretty good game. Cody Schrader, 18 carries, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. But he had like 700, 800 yards coming into this game. So, I mean, he went up a level or 2 levels in competition and played pretty well.
Well, and you got guys like that, and they're dogs. They're just
Oh, yeah.
their chance. I mean, you look at Paul, what he's done with his chance. Look at McAdoo, what he did with his.
Yeah.
We're seeing these guys, and I think that's when you look at the promising aspect of this team. You've got the younger guys that are hungry, wanting to be Arkansas Razorbacks, and you can use that to your advantage. Of okay, we got these guys we can work with. Okay, we got the ingredients of having a good team, and there's been people saying that we're going to be doing all right when it comes to the transfer portal. And like I said, we'll yet to see what that is, but you want there to be hope because, man, I just don't know if last year was a curse. It was like, did it happen too early? Did the expectations get set too high too early? Because we know how difficult it is when it comes to building a team in the SEC. We know how stressful this must be on these guys. And I know we say 3 years, but we're forgetting the COVID year. We're forgetting coming out of the COVID year. So it's almost like, we're seeing the effects of that for 2 seasons.
Right.
You've really had 1 full season of nothing to really, hinder you from building a program. So it's almost like you're starting over. But at the point when you see them, it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
You see all that, but then you see the performances. And if there was a drastic drop-off or if there just wasn't that good of a team, we could see that. But we've seen it's like having your kid that's an all-A student bringing home C's. You're disappointed because you know what they're capable of doing. We know what this team was capable of doing, and especially that team. And we said that last week and I was talking to Adam Spencer about this being a rivalry. If the loss hurts like it does and you're pissed about this loss, it's a rivalry game. I mean, you can fight it all you want. This is a rivalry game. No matter how many times you have lost this game, it's a rivalry now.
Yeah. And I think I had a thought there, and it just kind of left me. But yeah, it is definitely a rivalry game now after this one, because I really thought this was Arkansas's time to get it right. There has been so much promise this season. You look at all the players that you added. You look at all the transfers that played huge roles, like Brenny and Drew Sanders and Terry Hampton, Jordan Dominic. You look at the offensive side, guys like Matt Landers and Jaden Hazelwood, and it was kind of brewing like, and then that 3-0 start, you're thinking, okay, this is it. And I think that ultimately that A&M loss where Cam Little missed that field goal, or not even that point, but earlier in the game where KJ Jefferson fumbled at the 3-yard line where he jumped over his offensive line. And that is where the team's mindset changed, because you could see, I think the balloon of the expectations got popped at that point and then never recovered after Cam Little's missed field goal at the end of the Texas A&M game. Arkansas never seemed to recover because they did not play with the same effort and motivation throughout this season after that loss, after that field goal. And I can remember, and it made me sick. I remember 2 months ago laying in my bed, and I looked at Caitlin and I said, as Cam Little missed that field goal, and you could see the dejection on all those players' faces, the bummed look at all of them. And I said, this loss is either going to taste really bad and they're going to come back against Alabama and play lights out, or this is going to affect them long-term and then not be able to rebound. And they never fully rebounded. There was points where they played like the team that we expected them to be, just like last week against Ole Miss, kind of like Auburn and the BYU game. But after that, man, they just never rebounded.
Well, and then you throw in, and we'll do a quick just final thought before we hit a commercial break. But you take in KJ's injury, and you got to take that into effect. Now we can; these are not excuses. We're just saying, when you look at the grand scheme of what happened to this season, you just there was so much turmoil in this team. You lose KJ, you bring in Malik. Malik was going to take the snaps, and then no. He wasn't taking the snaps. So let's put KJ back in. Did we put him in too soon? Then he comes in and comes out of the game. You got him for the LSU game, Hornsby. Well, now KJ's, but there was so much freaking uncertainty. It's like, honestly, to goodness, it's like nobody knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
No, and this is coaches and players. And I don't know if we're at the age now where coaches are really listening. You know how when a referee it listens to the other coach, hey, that was a foul, and he calls a foul. Are the coaches really taking in account of social media now? Are the coaches and stuff really getting influenced?
I agree with that.
It's a question. I'm not saying they aren't. It's like, are they getting influenced by the masses saying you need to do that? And we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's so much, because we see our mentions in our DMs. Imagine being the head coach of the University of Arkansas and you're handing your phone off to your assistant saying, hey, just handle this. But it's just like,
and that's kind of what we've seen.
Yeah.
With Sam. And it ultimately comes down to him. Before we go to break, though, it ultimately comes down to him, Porter, because he is the boss. He is the man. He needs to make the final decision on everything and not look over to his coordinators and say, should we put Malik in? Should we have gone for that tight end sneak? You just got to think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And it's like this right here, stupid play calling. And this is what it's about, the frustration.
Yes.
They have
I like
talent. Just being the coach really bad. And here's the deal. 3 weeks ago, I'd have been like, man, chill out on it. But now I agree on it. This is my final synopsis on it. Sam Pittman was brought in to be the foundation, set a foundation, come in and bring this team out of the cellar. And I think the expectations happened too fast, too soon. He got the extension. He got the raise after 1 year. And this is where it was that too soon. We see what happened to Brett Bielema when he got his extension. He got his extension after beating a 6-6 or 7-6 Texas team. But we can start asking these questions of did we jump the gun on, are we pending off of one season success, or are we talking about, hey, let's them then build a program and see where they're at, and then let's reward him for where he's at, But the guy was brought in to get the team out of the cellar, and then, hey, let's let somebody else come in and take it to the next level, and that's where we're at. So. But we're going to leave it there. We're going to switch things up to basketball after the break. We'll recap the Maui Invitational and then, of course, what they got going forward. But we will catch you right after the break.
Shelby Taylor Trucking serves all your timberland needs in South Central Arkansas. With over 50 years in the industry, Shelby Taylor Trucking has established themselves as trustworthy leaders in the industry. From planting to harvesting to hauling your timber, Shelby Taylor Trucking is ready to serve you. Follow them on all social media platforms at Shelby Taylor Trucking. Learn more by visiting their website at staylortrucking.com. That's staylortrucking.com.
Camelot Exteriors specializes in identifying hail, wind, and other storm damage, as well as residential and commercial roof installations and re-roofing. We use only the highest quality materials from certified suppliers while putting a lifetime labor warranty on all of our roofs. Our mission is to provide our customers with the highest quality roofing project customized to fit each one of their needs, and to provide exceptional service through the entire process. Camelot Exteriors is based in Norman, Oklahoma, but we proudly currently serve 9 other states as a premier nationwide roofing company. So call us today at 833-799-7663 for your free estimate. Camelot Exteriors, your storm damage restoration experts. Do you need those pesky stumps ground before the winter, your pasture brush hogged, or need your driveway bladed? Here at Grind It Right Outdoor Services, we offer more than just stump grinding. We have recently expanded our business to include tractor work as well. So along with stump grinding, we offer bush hogging, land clearing, grading driveways, placing, and even spreading gravel. We are locally owned and operated, so call Danny today for a free quote at 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641. Again, that is 205-377-2662 or 479-530-1641.
McCoy Tiger Drug Store of Sheridan, Arkansas, has been the top pharmacy in all of South Central Arkansas since 1895. They were also the 2020 Good Neighbor Pharmacy of the Year. They not only fix you up with your prescription with timely and friendly service, but also an elite gift shop. All your OTC needs, baby and wedding registries, tuxedo rentals, and much more. They are located at 821 North Rock Street in Sheridan. Give them a call today at 870-942-5121.
And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. And we want to give a shout out to Arkansas Brewing Company at 201 South First Street in Ozark, Arkansas. You can call them at 667-2739. Daily specials, always having a good band to come play. Go and watch them at the game. They got 8 TVs sitting there ready to watch some TV and have some good drinks. So if you're ever around the Ozark River Valley area, stop into Arkansas Brewing Company and see Chris and Destiny Brockett and have you a good time. So, Jacob, we move into the basketball season. Really have not paid, really gave them much time, but now season's kind of winding down. Maui Invitational, Louisville, beat Louisville 80-54, got beat by Creighton in a very tough game, 90-87. And then ended it on an overtime win of San Diego State, 78-74. And I want to be honest, I really want to start with that San Diego State game. And I didn't realize the intensity and the backstory of those two teams until afterwards. Of course, we seen the aftermath in the video of the guy coming out of the stands. And, Coach Musselman released a statement on that. But here's the deal. There is no reason at all, and I don't care if it was Coach Musselman's fault. I don't care if it was a player's fault. You deal with that after the fact. You hold them accountable for what they were wrong for. At no way possible should you let a fan come on the stands. It is too dangerous. It's somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody's going to get injured, whether it's a player or a fan. I'm old enough to remember the Malice in the Palace. I don't know if you are, but I'm telling you, I was looking, there was a women's college basketball game. They were playing in a ballroom. It's like, when are you you got to have these safety standards set up. And like I said, I don't care who was right or wrong, but when you're looking at the safety of your team and what happened, you cannot let somebody come out of the stands. There's no way that turns out to be a good situation.
Yeah. To expound on that, Arkansas's coach, Eric Musselman, he was a college basketball star point guard for San Diego University, not San Diego State. So they were big-time rivals. Those guys do not like each other. Eric Musselman has absolute hatred towards San Diego State, and San Diego State hates him back. And I think they lost. I think Musselman went 3-7 and while he was at Nevada against San Diego State. So you knew he had it in him, that he wanted to prove it while he was at Arkansas. And things didn't look promising there for a little while. Arkansas got down 13 points and in the second half, and it kind of just looked like, well, it's tired legs. Ricky Council, you could tell in his jump shot was just short. Sometimes he would shoot it over. I mean, it was just weird. It was a weird game. And then Arkansas just toughed it out. And shout out to Kamani Johnson. I know I said it a lot. Kamani Johnson ended up trending on Twitter at one point on Wednesday night. But, man, shout out to that guy, a guy that has played sparingly since he started in the season opener, had not played at Maui at all, and then went in fresh. Went in without, being, he was really fresh, just not even warm off the bench, probably didn't shoot since warm-ups in the second half or the first half, and went out there and played with heart, played with dog. And like we were talking earlier about some of the football guys, those guys want to go out there and prove something, and Kamani probably proved something to Muss, like, hey, give me a 5 more minutes there, coach. Give a dog a bone and let Kamani go out there and dog. And the way they were calling fouls, especially against Creighton, and I'll get back to you, the way they were calling fouls against Creighton and against San Diego State, just absolutely ridiculous. I didn't think this was a game you could bring Kamani Johnson in because I thought he would get 5 minutes and be right back out of the ball game. But he played tough and didn't commit a single foul, maybe one foul, the whole entire second half. and the guy just played excellent basketball. He knows how to rebound, knows how to play defense. You can't rely on him on his offensive game, but man, just shout out to him. Way to perform and way to get some minutes. Earn your playing time there, son. Good job, Kamani.
You know, basketball is totally different. We kind of touched on this with the football aspect and your starting quarterback. You know, this is what you're gonna realize that if you're not really too fluent on basketball and you don't follow it a lot, you're gonna realize you can have all this talent, but yet when it comes to the college game, you're gonna realize role players and you don't have to start. You can have your best player come off the bench.
Yeah.
Some players, and it's weird how basketball is, but when I was at Ozark, we had this guy, you started him, he would go for 7-8 points. He come off the bench, he could go 20 to 25. He just
crazy.
Played better off the bench.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the nerves, you know, that first part of the game, you're nervous or what, but then there's some guys that can't. They have to start. If they don't start, there's some kind of, you know, mental thing that goes on. Then you got guys like Kamani that they know their role. They want to go in there and be a dog. You know, they know they're not going to come out there and get you 20 points, but look at Dennis Rodman. He made a career. Look at Deion Sanders. They made a career and got to the Hall of Fame off of their specialty and making their role known. I'm going to be good at defense. I'm going to be good at rebounding. I'm going to be so good, you're going to know who I am when I step on that court. And I'm going to give you everything I got. And it showed right there with Kamani coming in. I mean, you're following the game and you're like, Arkansas is dead in the water on this Creighton, you know, and not the Creighton one, the San Diego State game.
Yeah.
You know, they just thought that it was just not going to go Arkansas's way. And I know we can get in the ref situation here in a second, but for them to pull out a win and having the refs be that bad. And I want to say both ways. The ref thing was horrible. And I want to tell you something. You want to see things get just as physical as a football game. They don't have pads.
No.
And if the refs want to start letting the game go, and especially in these types of situations where you got two top 10 teams playing, you've got Arkansas playing the 17th or 19th ranked team in the country in a battle. Dude, I'm telling you, you see it in high school games. You see it in college games. You let a ref let teams start getting away with stuff. They're not stupid. They're going to start using and it can take a game that can be clean, competitive, and it can turn into a bad situation. Just like we talked about the fan. It can turn a good game into an ugly game real fast to where three guys they're blowing the whistles cannot contain what's going on.
Yeah. And there was at points during the Arkansas Creighton game where it changes the way you defend.
Yep.
You can't go and fight for rebounds. Like you can't drive to the basket because you know if you commit an offensive foul, I mean, it's 2 free throws the other way because Arkansas was in the freaking double bonus in 15 minutes into the second half of that game. And I was downstairs watching Xavier and Gonzaga earlier, and Gonzaga had already committed 7 fouls in the first half, like 8 minutes through the first half before Xavier even had a whistle called on them, and that was in the Phil Knight Classic.
Yeah.
Like, is officiating going to become this bad? And they're also experimenting with the flop and trying to figure out, okay, is the flop, is it a personal foul? I mean, a technical foul, or is it actual flop? Like, there's just too many rule changes in basketball. Yeah.
That's false.
I can't stand the judgment call. Either call it one way or don't call it at all. I would rather see a guy flop and not get called than have to have a judgment call there, whether he flopped or he didn't flop. Just make it one rule and make it universal where you flop and it's just okay. All right, you flop and you fly off 5 or 6, 7 feet. Call it a tech and you move it the other way, or don't call it at all. That's all I ask.
It all started a long time ago with drawing a foul.
Yeah.
You draw the foul. Now, when I say draw a foul, what I think is a legit drawing a foul, if you pump fake a guy, he goes up and then you jump up into him and he just knocks the crap out of you.
Yeah.
That's a foul. But when a guy is playing defense and he's in a defensive position and then you lean into him, that is not a foul.
No,
that is not a foul. And also, when an offensive player, and this is the way they let them play. I mean, they get away with it because of the rule of the game. And that's what the players are taking advantage of. So it's not the players' fault for playing this way because they're allowed to do it. But when the offensive guy is going in for a layup and he brings his arm up to create that separation, how is it then when you're having to overcompensate that on defense and yet you still get a foul called on you? That is not, and I think that's just really what irritates me the most on what is a foul and what's not. You know, you're trying to change all these things and make these circles where the guy can't stand in the circle, which that's the best thing because that is a safety measure that if a guy's already up in there, you can't run up underneath him and draw a charge.
Yeah.
You know, but they have also counteracted is if you're playing defense and you're running with a defender and he shoves you, it's an offensive foul.
Yeah.
The referees are just to me, they should know if you see a player extend his arm on offense, that should automatically be an offensive foul.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the thing. There's no flopping. There shouldn't be any flopping. If you're watching the game and you see a guy just barely move his hand up and then the guy just flails, I mean, come on, we're not going to start turning this into soccer. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and then I got blown up for it because when Anthony Black went up for his 3 at the end of the game, and everybody's like, "Oh, they fouled him! They fouled him!" No, it was not a foul.
No,
like he was trying to create the contact, and that's what you were saying earlier. Like, why was that not a foul, Jacob? That was a foul. That was a foul. No, because he did not. He forced the contact amongst himself. I don't like the way that's how basketball's played now, but that's just the way we've had to adapt. And over the past 10 years, that's the way this game has developed into. Is you should expect a foul on offense. It's the anticipation of a whistle.
You're hoping to get bailed out.
Yes.
You're looking to get bailed out, opposed to you're shooting a natural shot, you get hit, you get bumped, that's a foul. Yeah. If you go up for a shot and the guy bodies you or clips your arm, that's a foul.
Yeah.
This whole thing of you shoot the ball, you come down, and if somebody's in your space, well, that's a foul. No, that happened after the shot. Like now, if somebody runs up trying to block you and they hit you, it's almost like a roughing the kicker and running into the kicker kind of deal. They just got to really look at what is a foul because they play off of it. And, you know, these coaches go to these clinics and they know the rule changes and they're going to know what they're getting into, what they can get away with coming into the season. And they work on that. They know, hey guys, this is what's changing. You can't do this anymore. You know, it's just the way it is.
They've taken the physicality out of the sport, kind of.
Yeah.
And
I think about it, they should, because if you can't ref correctly, then yes, you need to take the physicality out of the sport, because if you start reffing a game and really hammering down on it and you can control that game, yes, bring the physicality back. But if you can't control the game, you do not need to bring, because I'm telling you, it'll turn into wars. There'll be teams that start scrapping in the middle of, you can't do it.
No. And the way the game has evolved over time, you can't just go back and say, we're going to scratch everything that we've done in the past 10 years to progress this game. You can't just go back to say, this is how we're going to play it. We're going to go back to 2003. Now I said 10 years. We're going to go back to 2003. That's when I started playing basketball and seeing how things have changed rule-wise back to what it is now. Or back to what it was then, and it just wouldn't turn out. People would get pissed. People would get mad during the middle of the game and start throwing punches. Like we would see guys with like Ron Artest attitudes, or I was always afraid of Jermaine O'Neal, who also played on that team.
Well, what about Rasheed Wallace?
Rasheed Wallace, yeah. Ben Wallace,
yeah,
like those Chauncey Billups, those.
You had enforcers back in the day. They were putting on the court. Bill Laimbeer, and Hakeem. I mean, you look at all those tapes, like when you compare Jordan to LeBron things, and you see all these things where people are just punching people in the face, and it's like, I'll go sell. Now if you barely touch somebody, you're ejected and you get a 3-game suspension. But I think the biggest thing when you look at, we'll go back to the game and.
We've chased too many rabbits. We didn't talk about the Hogs. Go back to the game.
I think when you look at the game, the biggest thing is, of course, their 3-point percentage, 8 for 20. But I'm telling you, since, really, really diving into the women's team and really watching how they've been, I've been really paying attention to the plus minus. I mean, that's a stat. Yeah. I think when you look at a game and you can tell, pretty much how a game goes. I mean, this one was close between Creighton and Arkansas. But if you look at the plus minus, you can kind of tell, okay, this team did. And you look at Arthur Kaluma for Creighton, plus minus was plus 12.
Yeah.
Ryan Kalkbrenner, 6. Ryan Nimbrand, 6. And then Trey Alexander was 3, and Baylor Shinerman was 5. All right. Now you go down to Arkansas. Jordan Walsh, -1. Makai Mitchell, -6. Anthony Black, -3. Ricky Council, -3. Devontae Davis, -2. Trevor Brazile was the only guy in the lineup that was a positive plus minus.
Yep.
Mikael Mitchell was -3. So you look at those, and that's going to tell you, that goes off your turnovers, your efficiency on defense, your rebounds, everything, how efficient you were when it comes to on the court. And they finished, and it's crazy. This game was a 3-point game. Creighton had a +3. Arkansas had a -3 as a team total. So, that just tells you, when you look at the closest of a game, and it's not allowing me to pull up the stats for the San Diego State game, but, I'll go right quickly to the Louisville game. You had their guys, -24, -13, -21, -15. So this was a blowout. This was a game that was 80-54. You move to the Arkansas side. Jordan Walsh, +23. Anthony Black, +27. Ricky Council, 25. Devontae Davis, 15. Mikael Mitchell, 21. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, if you look at the plus minus, you're like, okay, Arkansas won big. And it shows. And that's what gets lost, because you look at, even in the shooting in that blowout, Arkansas was 8 for 22 and 3-pointers.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the plus and minus from the South Dakota State game. I finally was able to find stats. For some reason, the Arkansas website wouldn't pull up
keeps
the
on
stats.
saying sorry won't load. But
so here's the plus and minus here. I finally pulled it up.
Okay.
Arkansas, you had a +12 with Anthony Black, +8 with Ricky Council, -15 with Devo, +9 with Jordan Walsh, +4 with Makai Mitchell. Brazile had 6, +6. Jalen Graham was -3. Dunning was 2. Kamani Johnson had +14, and Mikael Mitchell finished with -17. It doesn't give me the total there, but that's about pretty even as far as the game goes, because half the team on San Diego State, they had a lot of positives too. Yeah. But there was a couple of turnovers there that kind of turned the thing around late.
One at the very end.
One at the very end of the first, at the end of that, Trevin Brazile forced. Right there with 7 seconds to go, and then you think about the 2 turnovers that San Diego State had in the overtime period. Arkansas was able to come away with that, and that's how they ended up on the winning side of things. And the plus and minus thing is an underrated stat, because it shows you how exactly efficient guys are. And heck, man, Anthony Black, he had 2 26-point games, and one the San Diego State game was a 15-point outing. I think he played 39, 38, and 40 minutes.
Somebody guys stepping up in the absence of Nick Smith.
Yeah.
It was a
38 minutes.
Thing and we look at a guy and like, okay, he did it again. But man, I'll tell you what, and I know he was the star, but I don't think he still gets enough praise for the fact. Yes, he's putting up all these stats, but the fact that he stepped in as another freshman, and you got your guy that's the best guy sitting on the, out with the injury. We don't know when he's coming back. For him to step up, man, that just shows you, 1, how lethal this team is, and 2, how mature this team already is becoming this early season. You're sitting at 5-1 with your star player sitting on the, he's out. Wait till he comes back, and you got 3 games set with Troy, San Jose State, and UNC Greensboro, the 28th, the 3rd, and the 6th, before you play Oklahoma on December 10th in Tulsa. So that's good. You've got a 3-game homestand before you play Oklahoma, who is on fire as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly when, Nick Smith Jr. is coming back, but I mean,
it's soon.
You're hoping soon because
you're coming up on conference play now.
Exactly. And that's the thing. So you got Oklahoma, Bradley, UNC, Asheville, and then you are at LSU December 28th. So hopefully, I'm just saying this out of what I think, if he's ready to go, and we've seen he's been shooting around, you would love for him to come. Me personally, San Jose State or Greensboro. That way you're not running him in right there at the Oklahoma game, but also you're not bringing him in just for 2 games before LSU. I would love for him to get 4 games in before SEC, 3 games at least. I mean, say the Greensboro game, then OU, Bradley, UNC, Asheville, but we don't know the status on if he's 100% or what the holdup is on that, but hopefully we see him soon because, people want to see that team bond, and just as well as I do, just because the guy's on the court, they got to gel.
Yeah. And, man, they have looked really good, even without Nick. Like I said in a tweet on Tuesday night when they played Creighton, that loss to Creighton, and I had a lot of backlash. I had some people say, well, you just beat 2 mid-major teams that rarely ever get to the Sweet 16. No, you beat a top 10 Creighton squad that's probably got they have one of the best starting 5s in the country. Like that can take you in March if you get hot.
And 5 right now.
Yeah.
Creighton's ranked number 5 right now.
Yeah.
So whoever's saying Creighton's not legit, they need to go look at the rankings.
Yeah, San Diego State, they've got they have a bunch of grown men. Like, how many of those guys did you have that just look like shrimp, like just popcorn shrimp compared to big old dogs? Like there were several guys for San Diego State that were 6'7", 6'6", 230. Like those are a bunch of men, and that's going to get you deep in March too. So to diminish this Arkansas team in any fashion, I can't take you seriously.
Yeah.
Because that Creighton and Arkansas matchup, that is a preview in March. I don't care what you say to me. That game, blow for blow.
You wouldn't want to catch Creighton in the first round.
No.
You wouldn't want to catch San Diego State in the first round.
No. And this is absolutely like if Arkansas had Nick Smith, what does that Creighton game look like? If Arkansas had San Diego State?
Yeah, I think it's the same because Creighton is that good.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm being dead serious. San Diego State game and Louisville game, but if you want to look at the Creighton game, you can't just throw them in the lineup and say, well, they blow everybody out. They're going to go 35-0. That Creighton game would have been the same because Creighton, that's what they're known for. They don't have football. They're a basketball school.
Yep.
They're out in the middle of Nebraska.
Yeah. And then they go and play Arizona, and they only lose to them by 3 on a neutral site.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you can't say, oh, we just beat a mid-major team. No, shut up. They are a legit team and took Arizona, who's probably borderline Final Four, maybe a Final Four contender early on this season. That's a dang good loss.
Well, you're
saying Creighton was a dang good loss.
When you're sitting at home because you got beat by a mid-major in the tournament, that's the thing. Look, people who say that in basketball, they're stuck in a football mentality. Mm-hmm. That tell you what, that's one daggum. You can't look at the front of their jersey in basketball and say, well, they're mid-major because look at Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Look at Butler. Look at what Butler was doing. Look at George Mason. Look at all these mid-majors. Look at St. Peter's.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that.
Look at what these teams – look at Creighton. Look at, Creighton had a gunner. All you need is one guy that can go for 30 points.
Yeah, any night.
And that's the big difference between basketball and football.
Yeah. I'm glad you added those teams in because you can say Gonzaga and Butler, but they've been around for 20 years. You think about the South Dakota States that we played just a couple of games ago. They went 30-5 last year. Yep. Okay, yeah, maybe they flipped the roster a little bit. Maybe they had some returning starters. They still went 30-5 and won their conference last year and were within a possession of upsetting whoever it was in the first round as a 13th seed. Like, they were legit. North Dakota State was legit. Like
Colgate, who Arkansas played a couple years ago.
Yeah, Colgate.
And then Bucknell. Look at Bucknell. I mean, look at these. when it comes to March, when it matters the most, the name in front of the jersey does nothing.
No. Because these guys at the mid-majors want to go out there and prove themselves.
Because they're full of seniors. That is the biggest difference.
And they can shoot.
Exactly. You got two guys that can go for 20 apiece, and they go off for 25, 27, and then they just take you out of your game.
Yeah.
It's over. You're going home.
Yeah. You look at Arkansas the last couple of seasons, and you take last season for take that, and you who did Arkansas beat in the NCAA tournament? I mean, they beat Gonzaga last year, and Gonzaga was considered the best team in college basketball that season. All year long, they were pretty much ranked number one. They were overall number one seed. Arkansas was not even given a chance because they only had one guy that could score in J.D. Note and another guy that played well down low. What did Arkansas do? They went out there and played defense, and we had guys that you don't usually depend on, like Devo Davis offensively, Trey Wade offensively, but their defense compensated for their offense, and they were able to hit shots when people didn't think they were going to. And that's the thing during March is, you may not think that you have all the guys, and then you overlook somebody.
Yep.
Arkansas is not going to overlook somebody in March because that's just not the way Eric Musselman is wired.
Well, and then that's the thing. You want to talk to somebody, you'll never, and this is where Coach Pittman and his staff's gotten in trouble compared to where you'll never see somebody out prepare and out scheme for a game. I mean, that's what everybody was saying, how well he scouts, and nobody prepares for a team. If you beat Coach Musselman and you beat Arkansas, you just beat them. They just had a bad game, and you earned that win. Because you're not going to sit there and say that, well, we weren't prepared for that game. He is not going to allow it. Now, if the team's not prepared and they come out flat, that's going to happen in basketball. That's just, you're going to catch these Saturday games or these Sunday games where the kids are just not up for it and they're going to lose the game. But
yeah, I don't remember who it was. I know we're going over, but I love what Mason Jones said. When he was playing under Mike Anderson, they just rolled a ball out in the court and said, go play.
Yep.
But then he says, under Eric Musselman, I've never seen a guy that watches so much film and so much he prepares so much for a game. And a scout and scouting reports, like, almost every single thing about the guy that you're going to be defending, that you should have been there the day he was born because you knew every single thing about him. Like, you knew his tendencies. You knew what shots he took. You knew exactly what way he was going to go 99% of the time. Like, you just knew. And that's the way Musselman prepares. And do not take that for granted because you don't get that. Like, Arkansas, Hunter Yurachek struck a gold mine with Eric Musselman because of the way he prepares. It's like an NBA type of preparation.
I seen a video of practice, and you've seen the glimpse of the wall, and it was like, they took that paper that you would always make the signs for, like, football games, banners. Yeah. And each one of them had their name, and it was symbols. And it was like a 2K profile of each player.
Yes.
It was,
and he puts them down on the sideline. Because I watched his first practice that was open to the public during football season. He allowed the fans to come in, and it goes all the way down the sideline to the scorers table. It's a poster, like a science board poster of everything that you need to know. Like, that's what I was like, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had my binoculars. Like, I want to know what that says. Yep. Like, you knew there was something different about Musselman the moment I stood there during that practice, the first time I ever got to, and to see the way that he practices and conducts himself, and the way that he prepares for opponents. It's just impressive.
Yeah. Well, that will wrap it up. We do have a show announcement. We are going to take a little vacation, as per se. So we're going to do our weekly women's sports report tomorrow. We will not have a preview show, of course, because we don't know who the opponent is, the bowl game. So starting, there will be no live podcast next Sunday, and then all the next week. I am going to take the family actually go to Disney for the week. So I will be actually in Florida. I'm disconnecting. I'm turning everything off. I'm going to enjoy Florida. So this is going to be kind of a rare deal when it comes to our coverage. For the first time really in 4 years, we're not going to really be putting a lot out there. So I know, and I feel really bad for the volleyball team, which I will touch on tomorrow night when we talk about the weekly women's sports report making the NCAA tournament, that, we'll be covering that game. But, there's some times where you got to take a break from this stuff. You got to disconnect because it is a lot. There's a lot that goes into doing what we do in the coverage. And I'm not trying to pick on anybody or say this as a jab to anybody, but I don't think that there's not anybody who covers all the athletics like we do. I'm just, so it's just, it gets where you need to put family first sometimes. So we're going to take a little vacation. We'll be back on I think it's Sunday, the 12th. We'll have a live show on the 12th. So,
and if we miss anything, I'll be back in town before then. I will try to keep things going as far as a little bit of content, because we know the transfer portal opens on Saturday or Monday, December 5th, I believe is what it is. That's my anniversary too. So I'll be in and out too. So we'll try to get some stuff out there to you, but man, sometimes you just need a break. Yep. And I think it's a dang well-deserved break. So,
we're coming up on Christmas. It's family time. I got to spend some time with the family and stuff over Thanksgiving and stuff. So, but it's a good time. But, for Porter Hayes, Jacob, I'll catch you tomorrow night for the weekly women's sports report. A lot of big news going on that side of things, and some not so good things with the soccer team falling to Florida State. But, we'll kick that off tomorrow. But as for Porter Hayes, Jacob Davis, we will catch you tomorrow.
Go Hogs.